Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there and welcome. This is a show where we explore topics that help you create your lifestyle to live full and work fun. I'm Gayla Scrivener, joined by my co-host, Fran Groesbeck. Hi, Fran.
Hey, Gayla.
We were just talking right off a microphone that every time we plan a podcast, because we plan some of these topics weeks and maybe months in advance, and then we get to talking right before we hit record. And it's so interesting how what's happening in our real life, in our business and our personal, that it kind of coincides with the topic when it's the planned recording time.
It's amazing how it all comes together.
And today we're going to be talking about the importance of creating and documenting processes, especially in our small business. You know, I know that in a small business, and when you're doing most of everything, you're doing most of the everyday tasks, it is so easy to just keep doing and not pausing to document. All right. I'm guilty of that still, and I'm a work in progress because my job is to figure out processes and to connect one system to another. And I'm so under the gun with deadlines and things like that sometimes that it's like, oh, we need to figure this out. The event is coming up, or things changed in a program, so the process has to change or whatever. I'd like to hear from you. What are the benefits of creating processes?
Oh, until you do a really good process outline, you don't realize the impact it has. One of my clients that we work on mutually, their implementing processes not only saves time, but helps you to pass on a process to someone new. And when done completely, and don't go down any rabbit holes, but when done completely, this teaching and transfer of responsibilities becomes easier. The other part of it, though, it becomes an automatic. You know that you have this process to go to and follow along when you're learning something new. And a lot of people hesitate to do a process in a thorough manner because they think, oh, it's going to take a lot of time. Investing that little bit of time up front to write a complete process will save you oodles of time down the road. And I just went through it yesterday. I'm switching to a new financial system. And when I trained with the onboarding people, I wrote out all the steps. I even video recorded some of the steps so I wouldn't forget about where to click and things like that. And yesterday I just pulled up the video. I pulled up the list and I knocked it out of the park in the same amount of time, actually probably a little less than what I used to do in my old system. So time savings, and when you are a business owner, time is not only the only thing that's limited for us because we are limitless, but our time is limited, but it's also the number one resource we have to protect. So processes help you protect your most valuable commodity.
Absolutely. And time is of the essence. So when you're in the moment and you feel that pressure of, I just got to get it done, I'll just do it myself. In all practicality, entrepreneurs are idea people, and they are, and you and I tease each other because we have the split personality of we generate a lot of great ideas, but we're also implementers, and in a business, you need the head in the clouds idea person, and you need the one that implements and that knows the processes. For us, we have that split personality. Not everybody has that split personality of that. But when you stop and actually document, it helps you remember what decisions you made to begin with. Because if you do something once in a while, then even if you aren't delegating it, but just like with your example, you've already made the decisions of, oh, I'm going to categorize it this way. I'm going to, the screens, this is where I go because it's a new system. So it's not very intuitive of where to go. So the next time you do it, maybe you do it every few weeks. And when you're busy in the moment, all you have to do is go through the steps and it just gets faster and faster. Maybe you don't have to bring up that process every time, because you'll have it memorized, but having it documented so you don't have to make those decisions and just flounder. Where is this on the screen? And go through that. That is the practical way for you using your own processes. But as you grow, when you get in the habit of using your own processes and writing down an outline, then when it's time, maybe you are going to hire your first virtual assistant, or you're going to hire somebody to take off a little bit of weight of your routine stuff. Already having processes down, and then just it makes the orientation so much easier, because the new person or the person that's going to take on that process can run through the steps and ask you questions, right? But this is really great when you write a process down and then your language and everything like that. The time that the new person reads and goes through the process, they may interpret it different. And then that raises questions, and it can make the SOP even better because they can be empowered to modify it so that it makes sense to them.
You touch on something really important, Gayla, though. The process, writing the process itself, also brings a bit that is less tangible, which is easing your mind, and there is real science behind what the brain does when it goes into fear mode of, oh, I don't want to forget this. And fear doesn't always have to be extreme. Fears can be little. Fears can be small. And we get into, okay, I have this new system. Am I going to remember all this? Processes give you the way to ease that fear and worry. Write it down. It gives you confidence. It gives you back some intangibles that, by releasing those, it opens up space for your mind to do other things. If the process takes that pressure off, we always say, what we do eliminates fear, worry, frustration, repeat. Process is one of the key things to do that. And in writing it down, for many people, that's a way to start to remember it by writing it. And for me, I'm a visual person. So once I write it down, even if it's typing it on a screen, I can almost pull it up visually in my mind when I go to do it and refer to it. But having it somewhere and knowing I can go click here or open a notebook or pull out a file and it's there, you're freeing up space in your mind to not have to worry about that anymore. It's a huge thing. Where we put our thoughts and our energies is a huge part of how we can move forward and grow. So processes, there's, I think, both tangible in time and intangible in really freeing up space in our minds to focus on other better things.
And I don't think that you should strive for perfection. I try to do that. I suffer from that too. But having these notes, but organizing these notes. How do you organize your, SOPs or processes, your outlines? How do you organize them?
So,
like, what tools do you
use?
What
tools doing? There's two things I do. One is internally in our project management system. So it's something that is a 10-touch process. It's in our project management system and all employees can see it and access it. So these SOPs can be, the project management system we use allows it to be attached to multiple projects. And we have what we call a general section in every project. And in there will be processes that apply to that project. So we can then tag these processes to each project. If it's for a client, it depends on the work we do for them, but often it's a different system. We'll still have the internal systems in our project management, but we may have something that's client facing You actually turned me on to them, but I'm a big fan of Notion because you can really customize dashboards and exactly what you want to flow between the clients. Those are the two big ones. I've even used, though, with a client, there's one client who's much simpler in their approach, and we set up our process in a shared Google Doc. That's what was comfortable for them. And the top of the working document is the process, and then the actual work that we work on monthly is below, but we can all always refer back to the process at the top of the document. So there are a lot of ways, a lot of great applications out there that can help you manage and share your processes.
Well, for us, I use Notion and Asana. And for Notion, I have created the library of the SOPs. And it's the written word or the videos or whatever on the how-tos. But we've broken that outline into steps, the checklist. And underneath that checklist is the description of what needs to be done, even if it's something like write the blog post, because that's one of the steps in producing a blog. So we need to do the writing phase. We need to do the editing. Do a little paragraph, and there might be some client preferences or something like that. But the actual steps, that the titles of those steps are translated into Asana for us. And we have the main task, and we use subtasks, and we make a template, task templates for that. And we create that on our content calendar and then we have created some project templates. But overall, for our ongoing content, we have task templates. And in the description, in our task template, we put the link to the SOP. And then when we are actually doing the piece of content, we have a whole different content calendar in Notion that's a different page. And then we will link to that Asana task. So they marry in nicely. So in the main task, anybody that's doing that subtask can just click onto the main task, click to that SOP, and then know, okay, this is the client's preference. This is what needs to happen, and so on. So for practicality, that's what we've developed. Now, that's a long time in coming, because we started SOPs in Word documents, and then they were in Dropbox, and then we moved into Notion. And then I just want a library that can have templates so that it's easier to write and easier to outline. But I highly use Notion and Asana.
So when you said the word task template, immediately I feel lighter. We use the task template too. And just like you said, you also mentioned something about what a customer specific needs are. These task templates help us adapt the SOP have created in general. Say, oh, wait, this is a unique one. Oh, this particular client, we need to add in steps for product photography. We need to add in steps for creating videos in different media. And I'll tell you something, when you were talking, it made me think of a quote. One of my favorite bands in the world is Third Eye Blind, and Stephen Jenkins, the lead singer, was recently interviewed and said this amazing quote. He said, when you stop worrying about being perfect, you can focus on being good. And we talk all the time about perfectionism being the death. My favorite example between the two of us is me always wanting a perfect CRM, which is not possible. But that saying really super applies here, that don't worry about, if you don't have processes yet, don't worry about them being perfect. Just start. And then every time you use them, they'll evolve. In fact, referring back to the financial system, so I had that process written out. I go to implement it yesterday, and I realized there was one step that could be done two ways. So I made a note in the process. I said, hey, you could do it this way or that way, and both work. And processes, like everything else we do in small business, they're not static. They are allowed to change. These are living documents that as you work on them. And like you said, as team members work on them and might see not necessarily a better way, but a different way, and that resonates with them, you can, amend the process. These are not, signed and sealed documents like a legal matter, but and going back to one of your favorite sayings, don't let this stop you. If you don't have processes, pick one and just start it, and you're going to be amazed at what it can do for you.
And you touched on something about team as your team starts using them. As leaders, we need to strive to be good role models in documenting processes. However, we do not have to document every single process. We need to engage all of those who work with us, our team members, to create a culture of process documentation. And I don't know about you, but I have had past experience with employees, not now, but past employees in my old corporate life that wanted to hold on to their position so much that what they knew in their head on what they were doing was they just kept it close. They didn't want to share anything on how they did things. I've created a culture, and that's part of what I think that, documenting these processes and knowing what to do can help with cross training. It allows you to be able to work a little bit more. Maybe your employee evolves and doesn't need to do that process anymore, and they need to take on more responsibility, and some other things can be shifted. Maybe they need to take a period of leave off, and maybe you need to take it over for a period of time, because in a small business, we all help each other out, right? So it helps in being able to allow each team member to have that freedom to be able to take care of family first and be able to have the team to back them up and not have to feel like they have to work 24/7. And processes instills better teamwork, I believe.
I agree. Another spin on that is enabling the team to write processes. And I just had an example where we had a client evolving. People had changed at the client. The way information was going to flow was different. So I turned to the team that works on that client and I said, okay, guys, why don't you take a look at how the process should work? They were so excited to do that. They felt so empowered that I trusted them and I delegated this to them. It was done within 24 hours. It was so well thought out. They made a brand new task template, presented it to me, and now they own that process. Now they taught it to me. I agreed. They didn't miss a beat, in fact. So we have this new, great, updated process that for them, they feel ownership in. And I feel the trust that it built between us, that I said, hey, I trust you to do this, really was great. So I think on team, there's those two sides. It gives all of our people, including us, the flexibility when life happens, right? And life's going to happen. And at the same time, it's another tool that, going back to one of the series we've done, it's a trust builder. It's a way to say to your people, I trust you. I know you've got this. So I think processes, it's a word that sounds so blah or boring, or somebody goes, oh, do I have to do this? You do. And it's the first time you do one and then you go to use it, you'll want to create processes for everything you do. It's just the most powerful and freeing feeling to just go to a process and be like, oh, I got this.
A couple of things for documenting. I am really big on videoing the steps. There's things, what video do you use?
Use Vimeo.
Vimeo. And then is it Loom?
Loom is another one, yeah.
Another one I used, and they changed their name. But for years, I have this subscription called, I think it's called Screencast now. And I'll put the links down in the show notes for all of those. But documenting, you don't have to record yourself. It's just the screen, and you're verbalizing what steps and where to go. When you verbalize that way, you can export that. You can put it up into a transcription, a talk to text transcription type of software. Timmy, there's another one that I use that's even free for up to 30 minutes, and I'll put that link down in the show notes. And then you can have AI write an outline of that transcript into an SOP, which is fantastic. So then you have the video version, you have the written version, and then you have a third party, your employee, to edit it, go through it, whether they're doing it or not. Does it make sense? Are you like, what makes sense in our mind doesn't necessarily make sense to our staff. So that for practicality. But I would like to touch on, as an entrepreneur, we may hire someone, and what we do for our staff or for our clients is that we are implementers for our clients. We create processes based off of what problems or issues they have. But we're doing that so that we can have that ongoing and be able to fulfill the implementation of whatever project they're doing, right? So our processes, and what part of what our clients are paying for is us doing it, and we need to be as efficient as possible. So we're creating or we're implementing using our own processes that we've perfected and that we do. Now, if they transition and want to take that piece back and do it internally, they'll need to create their own processes, because whatever process works for us and makes us efficient for our team may not necessarily work in their culture or their environment. So when you hire an independent contractor, you're wanting to tap into their efficiencies, their expertise, and knowing that if you're not going to be in that relationship anymore, that you'll need to create your own process, which will take time, right?
Right. And the time, your process can guide them, it can help them, but like you said, they have to really put the time in to figure out what's right and best for their team, because it's a totally different structure, and it'll be have different needs and different,
Yes.
vehicles.
Yes. A few challenges to overcome realistically is some folks are resistant to change, keeping documentation up to date and ensuring everyone follows, like even pulls up the documentation. Those are challenges that, they're just real. And when we go into the busyness, and we've talked about that in the past, there's this urgency of, I've got deadlines and we've got to get things done. So we rely on memory and not pull up those documentation. And so it is a challenge to actually do.
I will say this, Gayla, on that point about, what you do with your team. A big thing with processes is don't assume, and this goes back to something you said, how different people see things differently, and the importance of using video, or the importance of double checking what you did. You don't have to use video. But here's the thing. Those of us who already do and love processes, we see a process or we jump into writing a process and we know right away what to do. If you are either giving a process to a team member or asking them to write one, take the time to almost do like you do with a client and onboard them. Show them how to do it, literally step by step. How do you do it? And get some common terminology, like upper right-hand corner for, literally sometimes you have to map out what you're referring to, or terminology that you use commonly in a process that is obvious to you, but may not be obvious to your team. And to clarify that language and do a little onboarding is really important.
And to that point, when you are changing systems, and I know we're doing this on a mutual client, and I'm asking for your current process and seeing how that translates into a new computer system because decisions have already been made. There's already templates of maybe email templates or what should happen. But when you move in from an old system to a new system, implementing that and reading what the current SOP is, you can outline and see how it fits into a new system, which may be different, and it helps create the new SOP. And so many people, myself included, are so anxious to get things automated. You really can't automate things until you try it out manually first. Because what if it doesn't work? And what if that's not exactly what you want it to do? But you've got to try things and do things manually and figure out how can or what pieces can be automated. And that's how you can, and we say this a lot, chunk it down and just modify. You said it perfectly, that our processes, our SOPs are living, breathing, evolving documents.
And this goes back to where we started, this taking the time to do it manually, walk it through. I'm sure people who are just learning processes or hearing this, that it could be like, well, I don't have the time to do that. You do. You really do. And this initial time investment is one of the best investments you'll make in your business in setting up processes.
In a past episode, I had interviewed John Jantz, the guy that wrote the book on systems. It's called Systemology, and I'll link that book in the show notes. But we're all about making things easier in the long run, and just thinking those through, chunking it down. And I appreciate everyone for listening today, and I'm anxious to know how you do your processes, or what challenges do you have, or what systems do you use in documenting your processes in your business. Hop over to Facebook and join the conversation in the Live Full Work Fun Facebook group. Fran, do you have any last minute encouragement or words?
Embrace the processes. Give it a try and just embrace it. It'll change your life.
I love it. Well, thanks for listening. And until next time, live full, work fun. This episode has been brought to you by Scrivener Social, the easy-to-use social scheduling platform built for the busy solopreneur. You deserve a system that makes posting to your social media faster and more efficient. Go to scrivenersocial.com and subscribe today.